what gear are you using? I asked everybody about their rifle, their setup, and I'll post that video in the next few days. And I also asked, like, what's the one piece of gear that you wouldn't go to a match without? And then what would you say to people thinking about going to a match that don't feel like they have all the gear, that maybe don't feel like they quite have the skills, or, just feel intimidated by the process? So same question to you, Zach. What are some of those things that, and you can expand a little bit more so than what we did over on the mountain?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's really important to note that you don't need anything special to go compete. If you're an avid shooter, there's a good chance you have most of what you need to go and compete already and have fun. And usually the group of guys at most of these matches are super kind with letting you try their gear and test stuff out. And, I know this gets said all the time, but it's true. Guys will let you use their bag or use their tripod or whatever, so that's, if you're apprehensive about going or anything like that, or you don't need to be, just grab your rifle. If you got good dope and you understand how to use it, go shoot and have a good time. I know there's the saying in the industry of like buy once, cry once. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, if you can afford it as you start to purchase gear, I do think that some of the nicer gear costs more for a reason. It performs better, it's more stable, it's more reliable, all those things. So sometimes that, can be valuable. But in saying that, you don't have to have it. Like if you just want to go out and have fun and compete, there's a lot of good budget stuff out there as well.
But don't let that keep you from going to compete at
Yeah,
all the
definitely don't. Even if you don't have some of the gear that you think you may need, don't let it keep you from going, because you can borrow gear. Everybody has extra. They'll let you use it.
There was a guy in our squad. He brought us. I don't know what his rifle was, but I remember he had a simple duplex reticle, and I think he probably had like 30 MOA of elevation on there. So he was just like literally Kentucky windage off of everything. And sure, he didn't do great, I'm sure, but I mean, he had fun. Yeah, and he left knowing what gear would help him the next time.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then a piece of gear that I feel like if you just wanted to buy one thing to go to PRS or a field match or something, field match, it's weird really, because like PRS takes its own gear to kind of run a course of fire, and then field match is a little different.
Yeah.
Like in a field match, you kind of need to have some range finding binos, but you don't need those in PRS, and but the one piece of gear that works for everything, that if you just had to buy one thing to go compete, would probably be a good bag. And I use a Game Changer. I just think the Armageddon gear Game Changer is really unbeatable. I like the Schmedium, which is the middle size with the heavy fill. It just does everything. You can use it as a front bag, a rear bag. I mean, any shooting position really you need to get into. And at these matches, every single shot I take, I feel like that Game Changer is involved somehow.
Yeah. I can't think of any time because I didn't bring like a dedicated rear bag. So the Game Changer, I was either using a rear bag or a front bag, one way or the other.
They came out with a new Game Changer X.
I didn't. Which, by the way, folks, if you want your own Game Changer, ParamountTactical.com. No, what's the Game Changer X? Is it like X shaped?
Literally an X shape.
Yeah.
Like
so
Game
it's got ears on both sides.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What else is some of the gear you've learned to rely on and take with you every match, Zach?
Yeah. So for NRL Hunter and team matches, which are again what I really enjoy shooting, tripod is nice. I use a really right stuff tripod, but it doesn't have to be that brand. There's a lot of other good companies out there, but tripod's really nice for glassing off of. When you got a target 1,000 yards away and you're using a pair of binoculars with a rangefinder in it, it's really hard to get good range. And if you don't get good range on a 1,000-yard target, then you're going to miss. So the tripod's nice to be able to glass off of and get steady and get a solid range so that, you can apply that to your shot. Other than that, nothing special. What's funny is sometimes when I'm like packing up for a 2-day match and I have to drive away and we're staying in a hotel or an Airbnb or something, like I bring a lot of stuff with me, but I find like almost every time before I'm like leaving the garage, I kind of say to myself, like, well, I got my rifle, I got a mag, I got ammo, I got my game changer and my tripod and my binos. I mean, there's nothing else I really need. So I have all that other stuff with me, but if I had just those, I mean, I could probably go and shoot and do just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the other stuff is, you know, you want to have it just in case. And sometimes it definitely comes in handy, but for the most part, there were several pieces of kit out there. One thing I will say that I thought was definitely huge in this type of event that I wouldn't shoot without them again, is the double pull MDT Skypods. I will say I found those extremely useful, and a lot of times with what we're normally shooting. And back in the day, I even gave those kind of a bad review, not the double pull, but the single pull. And that was the first generation, which they've gotten a lot better. And I probably need to do another review on those just to kind of make the record straight. But those things are so versatile, and I used them in so many different configurations during that course. And honestly, that is not the bipod that I would use for a lot of different shooting for the most part. That's definitely just like anything. Like there's not one perfect bipod for anything, but I will say that was any match like that, I'm using the double pulls going forward. I thought those were really great.
Yeah, and your opinion on that bipod is spot on. And that, lots of people look at that bipod and they're like, oh man, like that is really expensive for a bipod, but that thing does everything. I use the standard pull. I think next year for NRL Hunter, I am going to use a double pull, but I use the standard pull for anything, field matches, NRL Hunter, PRS. But that, it is pricey, but man, that thing is just a phenomenal bipod. There's a few changes I would make. Like I don't use the pano, on it. So I would kind of get rid of that and tighten up that head a little bit and just get rid of that feature altogether, which maybe they will. I would imagine that's some feedback they've gotten, but yeah, I mean, again, that's that buy once, cry once thing, right? Like most people don't want to drop the money on a bipod like that, but it is totally worth it. It is just great.
I
And you
mean,
can use it for everything, for hunting or anything.
Yeah.
I even brought that was one of those. I brought a triple pull, but I never needed it.
Where is that?
It's in my
Still in his pack.
Don't you worry about that. Yeah.
Gary Raids is on supply at the store, so
I regularly rob my own shop.
I need a store to rob.
I know, right?
Come rob our store anytime. You go in, free, walk out there with some bandit goggles, and then we'll just bill you for anything missing.
Yeah.
There you go.
It'll be fun. Yeah, that thing was money. I really like that. That was good.
Yeah, the versatility in how you can gain height and width and in speed as well, because the 4 minutes goes by as blazing fast. With that bipod is just really nice. It's just unbeatable, really.
My only regret with that is I don't think the spiked feet on that one did me any didn't. I wish I would have had the rubber feet on it. Anytime I was shooting in the dirt, the rubber feet would have been just fine. And of course, there was that time shooting off the metal table in the window. I started the bipod and I almost just ate it off the end of that thing. Freaking, that kicked my ass. But yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of times those do come in handy, but I think for what we did in retrospect, and it still did fine, but I would have rather rubber feet, I think, for most of the situations. Yeah. What other gear do you find useful?
Well, definitely for field matches. I mean, a good pack is nice, something comfortable. Like we said, the movements weren't super far, but when you got a bunch of ammo and gear and stuff in there, something that you can walk in and hike in is nice to have. A Kestrel is handy too, but definitely not necessary. I mean, you could just run like the Hornady Forward Off app on your phone and make a good dope card. I do wear a arm board. That's pretty helpful for team matches because you just don't have you don't have predetermined distances on your targets, right? So you're getting your target distances on the fly. So you need to have something to reference for your dope, unlike a PRS match where they give you the distances.
Yeah.
So I wear an arm board on my arm, and my Kestrel mainly lives in my backpack, but they're handy to have. But you do not need one. I would say if you're a new shooter, don't feel compelled that you need to run out and buy a Kestrel. Might help you learn some wind and stuff by playing around in the yard with it and things like that, but you don't need it to go compete. What else? I mean, honestly, man, not too much more. A good rifle, something that's pretty accurate, and the dope on a good scope. A bag, a bipod. And for a field match, you do need some range finding binos, but other than that, it doesn't take a whole lot to get out there and have some fun.
Or at least one person on the team, has some range finding binos. And that's another thing too, is like you can team up with somebody if you're going to do a team match,
Share gear.
and share your gear. A lot of the time and you're right about the Kestrel. I pull the Kestrel out every now and then just to look at my dope card and make sure there was no major changes, but there never really was, not enough to matter.
Yeah, and your reference to sharing gear with a teammate, you almost have to on a lot of stages. So I mean, that's just part of the game. There were tons of times, an exaggeration. There were many times in this major land match where Ling and I were literally tossing gear to each other. Just you're on the clock, you're trying to beat that 4 minutes, you're trying to maximize your time, and sometimes we're sharing gear, and sometimes you're just sharing gear for part of the stage. There were the table you referenced. I actually used both of our rear bags under the back of my rifle to gain the height I needed because the angle down of the shot was so steep. So yeah, your teammate, his gear, your gear, it's all important in maximizing the stage.
I had a pump pillow, the fat bag. I actually put the fat bag down and I put my game changer on top of this, and I was looking at it, I was like, this is gonna be a bag of ass. But I'll tell you, man, it was freaking super solid. It worked perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was a lot better than I thought. So that worked out good.
There's technically called the fat ass bag.
Fat ass bag.
Mhm.
Don't talk about it. I'm right here.
That's right.
I'm just
That's
telling you the real name.
Thanks a lot. I'm right here. I got
I
a fat big
will
hat on.
say,
You don't have to
so-
call me a fat ass.
So Saturday evening, I was hanging out when a lot of people were getting done, and they'd be walking back to where all the cars were parked, and they're just like, just loaded down with all their gear. So yeah, like having a good pack seemed to be pretty freaking important, because some of them were just trying to balance a lot of stuff in their hands, and I'd hear them just like these huge sigh of relief when they were finally able to put everything in their car and walk back up.
100%.
Yeah. Well, getting out on the weekends and doing a little bit of that besides just match time helps too.
Yeah, absolutely.
What bag were you running, Zach?
I use a Kuiu. I think it's like a Venture 2300 or something. I'm not 100% positive, but just a Kuiu, like lightweight hiking pack, but it's pretty comfy. And I don't know if I'm a minimalist or what, but I tend to always have less stuff in my bag than my friends and my teammates. So, I usually, you do, yeah. Well, you were an Army. I know you're used to big rocks.
And everything. You just never know.
He's the I'd rather have and not need than need not have guy.
And
Yeah.
I have no problem carrying weight on my back. I've been doing that for a long time, so we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I don't.